You notice the way their eyes shift before they answer. You hear the slight change in their voice when they say, "I'm fine." You catch the smile that stays on their face a second too long. You notice the pause that no one else seems to hear. Nobody in the room reacts. But you do. You always do. And sometimes you wonder why you cannot simply switch it off. You walk into a room and your mind starts scanning before you have even taken off your coat. A quick frown across the table. Two coworkers who stop talking when someone joins them. A friend laughing at dinner while their eyes look completely exhausted. Everyone else is simply having a conversation. You are collecting information you never asked to receive. Small details other people overlook. Emotional signals you cannot seem to ignore. And honestly, it is exhausting. While everyone else is living in the moment, you are processing 100 tiny moments underneath it. People often call you perceptive. They say you have good intuition. They tell you that being able to read a room is a gift. And sometimes it is, but they rarely see the cost. They do not know that a gift can become a burden when you never get to put it down. They do not know what it feels like to sense that something is wrong and still pretend you have noticed nothing. They do not know how tiring it is to keep hearing what people refuse to say out loud. So why does your mind work this way? Why can you not just let things pass? And how do you keep your sensitivity without carrying the emotional weight of every room you enter? To understand that, we have to look at where this internal radar came from. Not every highly perceptive person develops it for the same reason. For some people, sensitivity is simply part of their natural temperament. Their minds process experiences more deeply. They notice subtle changes in tone, facial expression, body language, and atmosphere. What passes through someone else's mind may stay in theirs for hours. That does not automatically mean anything is wrong with them. It also does not make them a human lie detector. Avoiding eye contact does not always mean someone is hiding something. A tense voice does not prove that a person is being dishonest. People can be tired, anxious, distracted, or dealing with something that has nothing to do with you. But a sensitive mind is often quick to notice when different signals do not match. Someone says they are happy to see you, yet their shoulders tighten. Their smile looks practiced. Their attention keeps drifting toward the door. Something inside you quietly says, "This does not feel right." And the moment you notice that gap, you want to understand it. Are they tired? Are they uncomfortable around me? Did I say something wrong? A tiny detail quickly becomes a psychological equation with no clear answer. You do not simply notice the signal. You start searching for the meaning behind it. For other people, however, this radar did not begin as a personality trait. It began as a survival skill. Maybe you were the child who could tell how the evening would go by the way a parent closed the front door. You could read the mood at the dinner table before anyone spoke. You knew when to stay quiet. You knew when to be extra helpful. You knew when to make everyone laugh so the tension would ease. Nobody formally taught you how to do that. You learned because not noticing felt unsafe. Perhaps the adults around you were unpredictable. Perhaps you often comforted the person who was supposed to comfort you. Perhaps you became the family peacekeeper before you were old enough to understand the conflict. Psychology sometimes describes part of this experience as parentification. The child gradually becomes responsible for an adult's emotional stability. You were not allowed to be carefree for very long. You became the emotional thermostat of the entire household. When the room became too tense, you tried to cool it down. When someone fell apart, you tried to hold them together. When an argument was about to begin, you tried to stand between both sides. Your awareness was not just a gift then. It was protection. Years passed, you grew up, you left that house, but the radar came with you. Now you enter an office, a classroom, a restaurant, or a crowded train and automatically check who seems upset. You register everyone else's mood before you have even noticed your own. You take responsibility for feelings that do not belong to you. Then you get home completely drained and wonder what you actually did all day. If that sounds familiar, you may be paying 5 hidden costs. The first sign is that you see the subtitles before the other person has spoken. Imagine watching a film where the captions appear a few seconds too early. You already know what the character is about to say. All you can do is wait for the scene to catch up. That is what many conversations feel like for you. You ask a coworker if they want to grab coffee after work. Before they answer, your radar switches on. Their shoulders stiffen slightly. Their eyes move back to the computer screen. They inhale as if they are searching for a polite excuse. The subtitle instantly appears in your mind. They do not want to go, but you cannot interrupt and say that you already understand. You still have to stand there. You still have to smile. You still have to listen as they explain that they already have plans. Maybe your interpretation is correct, or maybe they genuinely are busy. The problem is that your mind has finished writing the story before reality has provided enough evidence. You live several seconds ahead of the conversation. You predict rejection. You prepare for disappointment. You defend yourself against a wound that has not happened yet. And always knowing, or believing that you know, can make ordinary social moments feel painfully complicated. The second sign is that you breathe in other people's emotional secondhand smoke. One person lights the cigarette, but everyone nearby still breathes in some of the smoke. Unspoken emotion can affect you in a similar way. You step into an elevator with two coworkers after a tense meeting. Nobody says anything. Both of them stare at their phones. On the surface, it is just an ordinary silent ride. Inside you, however, everything feels loud. You notice one person's jaw tightening. You hear the other person breathing more heavily than usual. You feel an invisible wall between them. The doors open, they walk away in different directions. But the tension leaves with you. Your chest feels tighter, your mood suddenly drops. Your body reacts as though you were part of the argument. You absorb emotions from people you may not even know well. You are not always tired because you did too much. Sometimes you are tired because your brain processed too much unspoken noise. A sigh during a Zoom call, a forced smile in the office kitchen, an unusual silence in the family group chat, a pause after a joke at dinner. Each signal lasts only a second, but hundreds of those seconds can consume an entire day. The third sign is that you feel like the canary in the coal mine. Coal miners once carried canaries underground because the birds reacted to dangerous gases before people could detect them. In relationships and groups, you may often be the first person to sense that something is changing. You notice a friendship beginning to fracture through the way two people speak about each other. You feel uneasy around the charming new person everyone else immediately loves. You catch small contradictions that other people dismiss as unimportant. Because you care, you say something. You tell a close friend to be careful. But nobody else sees what you see yet. You do not have clear evidence. You only have a collection of small details and a feeling you cannot fully explain. So people call you too sensitive. They say you are overanalyzing. They accuse you of being suspicious. Sometimes they assume you are jealous or trying to ruin the mood. You begin to question your own judgment. Then months later, the situation falls apart in a way that resembles what you feared. Part of you feels validated. Another part wishes you had been wrong. But there is one important truth you must remember. Being perceptive does not mean you are always correct. Intuition is a signal to investigate, not a verdict to deliver. If you forget that, awareness can slowly turn into chronic suspicion. You stop noticing possible danger. You begin expecting danger everywhere. The fourth sign is that you become water in whatever container you are given. Water poured into a glass takes the shape of the glass. Water poured into a bowl takes the shape of the bowl. Because you study people so carefully, you quickly learn what makes them comfortable. You also learn what might upset them. To keep everything peaceful, you begin editing yourself. Around a quiet person, you lower your voice. Around an energetic person, you raise your energy to match theirs. With someone who takes everything personally, you measure every word. Before messaging an easily irritated manager, you type and delete the same Slack message 3 times. You change the period because it might look too cold. You add an emoji because the sentence might sound annoyed. You read the message again just to make sure nobody could misunderstand it. You become an expert at changing emotional color. People like you because you are easy to be around. They talk to you and feel deeply understood. But every time you make someone else comfortable, you may erase another small part of yourself. You swallow what you really wanted to say. You soften every edge of your personality. You call it harmony. But sometimes it is simply fear of rejection wearing a kinder name. At the end of the day, when your bedroom door closes and there is nobody left to read, you look at yourself and wonder, if there is no container around me, what shape am I? You have adapted to so many people that you are no longer sure what you genuinely like. You know what everyone else needs. But you have lost contact with what you need. The fifth sign is that you experience a social hangover. You did not drink anything. Yet after spending time with people, you still feel as if you are recovering from a long night out. Think of your working memory as the temporary storage on a computer. It is not necessarily broken when it receives too much information. Sometimes it freezes because it needs time to clear the overload. You spend 4 enjoyable hours at a friend's birthday dinner. Nobody argues. Nothing terrible happens. You laugh more than you have all week. But when you get home and close the door, your energy disappears. You leave your keys on the counter. You sit heavily on the edge of the bed. You do not want to look at your phone. You do not want to answer the group chat. You do not even want to turn on the television. You just want darkness, silence, and no more information. Your partner wonders whether they did something wrong. Your family assumes you are upset, but you are not necessarily sad. Your nervous system is asking for empty space. All evening it was recording details. One friend's strained laugh, another person's distant stare, the server who seemed overwhelmed, the awkward silence after someone mentioned money. None of that information gives you a problem you can solve, yet it remains open in your mind like dozens of browser tabs. Eventually, your body shuts down so it can reclaim some quiet. Which of these 5 signs feels most familiar to you? If your answer is all 5, then I may understand part of the life you have been living. You have spent years reading the fine print in other people's emotional lives. You remember exactly how your coworker takes their coffee. You know when your closest friend needs a hug. You also know when they need to be left alone. You see the hurt hiding behind cheerful vacation photos and perfectly edited social media posts. You become a quiet tailor, stitching together parts of people they do not know how to repair. But here is the painful paradox. You read everyone else's fine print. Meanwhile, almost nobody notices the largest headline written across your face. People assume you are strong. They think someone as emotionally aware as you must know how to heal alone. They turn you into the safe person, the listener, the friend who answers the late-night call, the place where everyone leaves feelings they do not know how to carry. But when a storm enters your own life, you discover that you have nowhere to stand. That is the invisible imbalance of always being the understanding one. Your loneliness does not come only from sitting alone in an empty apartment. It comes from standing in a crowded bar, a busy office, or a family gathering and realizing that you can see everyone while nobody is really seeing you. You protect their feelings, but they have no idea where you are hurting. You see through their masks, they assume your mask is your real face. So what is the way out? There is no switch that will make you stop noticing everything overnight. The goal is not to become cold or indifferent. You do not need to damage your hearing just because the world feels too loud. The amount of information entering your mind may not be the first thing you can change, but you can change what you do with that information. The first skill is separating observation from interpretation. Your friend becomes quiet during dinner. That is an observation. You decide they must be angry with you. That is an interpretation. You immediately apologize without knowing what happened. That is an intervention. These 3 steps can happen so quickly that they feel like one event. Learn to place a pause between them. I notice that they are quiet. I do not yet know why. That single sentence can save you from hours of anxiety. You can respect your intuition without treating every feeling as a fact. The second skill is cutting the cord between awareness and responsibility. The next time a coworker looks frustrated, your internal alarm may sound immediately. Notice it. They seem to be having a difficult day. Then let the thought stop there. You do not have to tell a joke to rescue the mood. You do not have to pull them aside and persuade them to talk. You do not have to turn every unhappy face into a personal assignment. Allow other adults to have bad days. Allow them to feel confused. Allow them to manage their own emotions. Someone else's discomfort is not always a request for you to fix it. And staying quiet does not make you uncaring. Sometimes silence means that you respect their boundaries and your own. The third skill is accepting the broken situations that do not belong to you. People who notice too much often carry a quiet belief. If I do not worry, nobody will. If I stop paying attention, everything will fall apart. If I can see the danger, I am responsible for preventing it. Suppose you notice several troubling patterns in the person your best friend is dating. You pay attention, you explain your concern honestly and respectfully. Your friend still chooses to stay. At that point, the hardest part is not seeing the problem. The hardest part is stepping back. Do not become a private investigator collecting evidence they never requested. Do not destroy your own peace trying to convince someone who is not ready to hear you. Sometimes another person's lesson requires them to walk through the consequences themselves. Your role is not to jump into the river and drown beside them. You can remain on the shore. You can still care, and you can offer your hand when they genuinely ask for help. The fourth skill is giving your nervous system a transition period. After a day filled with meetings, commuting, conversation, and notifications, do not force yourself to absorb even more noise immediately. Give yourself a small space between the outside world and home. 10 quiet minutes in the car before walking inside. A short walk around the block. A warm shower with the bathroom light turned low. An instrumental playlist instead of another podcast. A blank page where you can unload the thoughts still running through your mind. You are not lazy. You are not antisocial. You are helping your mind close the doors it had to keep open all day. And finally, learn to turn your radar toward yourself. You have spent years monitoring other people's faces. Now begin noticing your own body. Are your shoulders tense? Is your breathing shallow? Do you actually want to remain in this conversation? Or are you staying because you are afraid someone will be disappointed if you leave? You often know what other people need before they say it. It is time to ask yourself the same question. What do I need right now? When you begin putting down the invisible burdens, your awareness does not disappear. It simply changes direction. It stops consuming your life. It begins serving your life. You are no longer a sponge absorbing every emotional vibration until you are dry. You learn to choose what deserves your attention. You also learn to let what does not belong to you pass through the room without following you home. The greatest change is not that you notice less. The greatest change is that you are no longer carried away by everything you notice. Then what once felt like a curse can gradually become a genuine strength. In relationships, you can make people feel truly seen. You do not only hear their words, you notice what they are struggling to express. At work, you can identify problems hiding beneath the surface. You recognize needs nobody has named yet. You ask questions other people have not considered. And during unstable moments, you may become someone others trust. Not because you have every answer, but because around you, they do not have to keep pretending they are okay. Just remember this. Being a safe person does not mean becoming an emotional dumping ground. Understanding is not the same as carrying. Caring is not the same as rescuing. Seeing another person's pain does not make that pain your property. The distance between being drained by sensitivity and living well with it is not determined by how much you notice. It is determined by how much you decide to carry. If you are someone who notices the details the world keeps missing, I understand why you are tired. I understand how you can feel exhausted after a normal day even when nothing dramatic happened. I understand how lonely a crowd can feel while your mind continues analyzing every voice, glance, and pause. I also know how tired you are of hearing people say, "Stop overthinking." They do not understand that if you could unplug your mind, you would have done it years ago. But listen carefully. Your mind is not broken. You may simply be viewing life through a very high-resolution lens. Do not smash that lens. Learn how to direct it. Do not apologize for noticing what other people miss. But do not assume that everything you sense must be true. Do not make yourself smaller just to keep everyone else comfortable. But do not use your sensitivity as a reason to distrust the entire world. You do not need to become numb. You need boundaries. You do not need to stop caring. You need to stop accepting responsibility for everyone. You were not born to be the warning system for every room you enter. You deserve rest too. You deserve to walk into a room without immediately checking who is upset. You deserve relationships in which other people also learn how to read you. And one day, someone may look at you and say they know you are tired, even though you are still smiling. In that moment, you will understand that you do not have to be the only person who notices. You are allowed to be noticed too. You do not notice too much. You simply experience the world more deeply than many people do. That sensitivity does not need to be destroyed. It needs to be protected. Which of these 5 signs costs you the most in everyday life? Leave the number in the comments and tell us how it shows up for you. If this video put words to something you have never known how to explain, send it to someone else who feels exhausted by the noise inside their mind. And if you want to keep exploring the hidden psychology of deep, sensitive, and misunderstood minds, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for staying with me until the end. I will see you in the next video.